Good day to all our viewers and listeners. Welcome back to another exciting episode of our podcast series at Exness. And we thank you for subscribing, for liking, for commenting, and following us on this journey where we are hoping to inform you as a trading community, as traders, as investors, and empower you, with more facts than fiction. That's what we aim to do, myself and Sihle, during our discussions in this podcast series. And as the episodes go, we're going to include some very exciting guests who will talk to their own trading journey. Some of them have been very successful, are big names within the trading space on the African continent. So look out for those episodes because those guests will be coming through, and it'll be good to hear how they went about their journey. Was it luck or was it skill? And for today's episode, we are going to be talking about the election trade, trading around elections. In South Africa, we had the recent Government of National Unity, but before that was announced, there was the actual election and build-up to the election. We've got the U.S. election that is coming, that is underway, actually, and the actual election time, which will be sometime in November. With regards to the U.S. presidential election. What does that mean? How do you trade this? So we're going to be discussing all of these points with my colleague, Sihle Tuta. And as always, please follow us on all our socials, Facebook, Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe and like. Sihle, how are you, mate?
Good on yourself, Terence. How are you doing, man?
I'm very good, excited about this election trade.
Yeah.
And seeing what we missed on the South Africa election trade, I'm wondering, is there a great opportunity around the U.S. election trade? And what does it mean to actually trade the election? What is the election trade? How do you do it? How do you formulate it? How do you strategize around it? What is it? What should we do or not do?
So I think that goes a lot with doing a lot of research into what fundamentals can do for a specific trading instrument. In the case of an example, if you're trading, let's say, the US dollar against the rand,
right?
You want to know what the election outcome, or you want to have an idea at least, what's the election outcome, what effect it's going to have on the specific currency pair that you're trading. Is it going to mean that the US dollar is going to strengthen against an exotic pair like the rand? Or is it going to mean that it's going to weaken, which means then that your currency, your local currency, whether it's exotic or a major, is going to gain strength?
Right.
Now, obviously, this will be determined by the election outcome based on who becomes president or who takes helm and which political party wins.
Right.
Now, we all know that some candidates are market-friendly. Some political parties are market-friendly.
Right.
And obviously some are not.
Right.
Like, is the win of a Donald Trump good for the dollar or is it bad for the dollar?
Right.
That's for you to decide based on your own analysis. So election trade basically looks at things like that. Is it, is a specific outcome good or bad for the instrument or the currency pair that you're trading? Is it good in the short term, but possibly not in the long term if you're taking the investment focus? Or can it look like it's not good now, but will be in the long term based on what the elected candidate or the party that comes into power on the strategies that and the policies that they sort of introduce and put in place. So it's not an easy decision or an easy thing to say, this is what you do and this is what you shouldn't do. It's a bit of a data heavy a question. You need to produce the data. You need to look at the different sources. You need to look at the policies. You need to do your research basically to know how to trade the outcome of an election. I mean, we know here in South Africa, as an example, as you correctly said, Government of National Unity, GNU. Initially, it looked like the dollar is strengthening against the rand, and some people made money, going long. But if you look at where the rand is trading now,
remarkable.
it's at 17 rand from, I think, 1850.
Yeah.
So the rand really took, the dollar took a beating against the rand.
Yeah.
Can we say or confidently say that it's because of GNU? I think it does have an effect.
In effect, yeah,
You know
for
what
sure.
I mean?
Yeah,
Especially with what's happening in Parliament now, with all these parties purporting to work together. And we know that the deputy president of the third biggest political party recently resigned from his role
Wow.
to join a newcomer, right? A newcomer
Yeah.
who garnered many of the votes.
Right.
Now, I will add that the newcomer in question is actually headed by a former head of state.
Yeah.
Right. So you have a deputy president of the third biggest political party resigning to join a new political party which was formed by a former head of state, right, which is also contesting a power. So all these dynamics are obviously going to influence somehow the local currency, in this case, which is the rand. Now, similar dynamics, I would imagine, emerge in different countries all over the world, because politics are politics everywhere. Right? What happens in the political space will affect the markets.
Wow. Well, Sihle, I mean, just from what you've said, I already have different probabilities playing out in my head. If this, then that happens. What does this mean for this, that? And, all of these different moves, that. So it's a very important thing in election trade.
Yes.
And it's good to understand the different moving parts.
Yes.
And what those mean I think you summed it up well. Ultimately, is it market friendly or not market friendly?
Yeah.
Market friendly means it's good for that currency. Not market friendly, it means it's not so good for that currency.
Yeah.
So then you take your view based on that headline to analyze, okay, this move, if this happens, that happens, it's market friendly. Therefore, you take that position with risk management, of course. Or if this plays out this way, it's not market friendly, and you take that position with your risk management, of course. So when we look at it now across the Atlantic, and we've got the U.S. election that is happening, and with that, this has been the most interesting election, at least in my lifetime.
Assassination attempts and
it's the stuff of movies, of series, so to speak. As you said, assassination attempts. One moment, President Joe Biden is very much in the race, he's raised a lot of money through his campaigns, and he has pulled out. And Vice President Kamala Harris is now leading the charge. And guess what? She's closed that gap, that former President Donald Trump had opened. And she's now leading that charge. And we actually stand on the verge of the possibility of the first female president running the United States of America.
We know that, was it Hillary Clinton who took her shot? And obviously, it didn't work.
It didn't work.
Yes, we are looking at the possibility of a female leader running the most powerful economy or presiding over the most powerful country on the planet. Now, we all know that they say when America sneezes, everyone catches the cold. Now, the question is, and I'm not being sexist by saying this, I mean, it is a political question. Will that move, let's assume that she assumes presidency and she goes to the White House, right? Which means then she becomes the most powerful politician on the planet, give and take. Will that move be good for the US dollar? Will it be good for the markets? And then we have to think about the ripple effect to all other economies, because I mean, in this country, we know that America is one of our biggest trading partners.
Right.
So what does a Kamala Harris presidency look like for the currency, which is a base currency for most pairs when trading? And what does that mean for other trading partners of the US, like South Africa, as an example? So these are all things we need to look at. But unfortunately, because we're not Americans, we don't get to decide, right? because we don't vote.
Yeah.
And those who vote, basically, in one way or the other, vote for us because America is our trading partner. And what happens in America affects us, here or in Europe or China or wherever, one way or the other.
Yeah.
So these are all things we need to think about.
Yeah.
Is the global political community ready for a female leader coming out of the US? Are Americans ready for a female leader there? For me, I think it's neither here nor there, but we can't be naive to assume that it doesn't, because it does. This is politics.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the first cue I take from that, is of previously successful and considerably successful female leaders of very powerful nations.
Yeah.
And if anything, America has been slow to the curve with regards to that, And we've seen it with the UK, with Margaret Thatcher, and which was a significant turning point for the country and the economy. We've seen it with Angela Merkel for Germany, which is the one of the most significant economies in Europe. So if we look at both the UK and Germany, these are very big players globally. And we cannot not help acknowledge that Germany was left far stronger and in better position under Angela Merkel than where it is right now, given the other political plays that have happened. She was able to steer the ship through very treacherous waters, if we can call it that. And so was Margaret Thatcher. So if we look at Kamala Harris's candidates here this time, first of all, Kamala Harris as a vice president is very different to Kamala Harris as a president. There are positions that she's going to have to explicitly take that before she might have been on the fence on, and views that she might have shared that were not necessarily positions, right? So all of that changes the dynamic.
Okay.
And this time that we have, that is what the campaign season is all about, to really get a sense of her position. Then we can, ascertain domestically for the American citizens whether that policy will be great for them, and foreign policy, what that looks like, what that sounds like, and and the relation with the global market as a whole. But if we look at the recent or the previous points of history that I've mentioned, you can see that leadership relies heavily on sound leadership. It sounds very, very like a double word in itself, leadership on leadership. But she is careful enough to do the right thing.
Okay.
But bold enough to do the necessary things.
Okay. Let me sort of, as a parting shot for me, push you into the corner here.
Yeah.
So what do you think a Kamala Harris presidency will do for the US dollar, especially from a trading perspective?
Yeah. So unfortunately for Kamala Harris, she'll, say, should she become the president-elect, she's coming into the US economy where it's really been dictated by, monetary policy at this time and moment. So the US Fed, Jerome Powell, the US Fed chair, Jerome Powell, is someone who she has not elected, but will be serving, will be an incumbent.
So under her pleasure, at her pleasure.
Yes. So that will be the first decision she would need to make. And she's coming into a rate cut environment, which has already been announced, how much of that rate cut to stir up growth and so forth. So what she does now with regards to the current formulation of policy, the current policy that's being implemented, what she is able to do with it now, as a presidential candidate and, hopefully maybe a president-elect, right, is what then will determine the US dollar. In terms of business, tax breaks, all of those comments, yeah, they'll go in a long way as to positioning herself with the different groups, certainly. And that will kind of give an indication of what that future would look like, right? And it will be in contrast now to Donald Trump, who might be President-elect Donald Trump, say, for example. What does that look like? So you'll find probably now the Trump camp is going to change a few cards, because their cards were against Joe Biden, President Joe Biden, whereas now it's with presidential hopeful Kamala Harris. So there were some things that were obvious wins that are no longer becoming obvious wins. And the electoral poll is starting to show that, right? That, look, there are things that she is speaking to that are more sound as in comparison to what the Trump camp is saying. So again, it'll come down to their actual response as president-elect, with in as far as the current policy implementation and what they will do with it going forward.
Okay. Again, Terence, finally, I think the most important thing because as a trader, you want to be able to make sense and simplify all this to take a trading position. Based on what's happening in the US, do I now buy or do I sell the US dollar? Right. What are some of the tools do you think are available to traders, especially from a fundamental point of view, to help them make the correct trading decisions?
Okay. So today we spoke about the election trade, but that does not do away with policy that's being implemented. And as a trader, you look at what's happening right now. You are trading now.
Okay, where do I see all of that?
So where you see all of this right now is, the news, for example.
Are there internal tools, for instance, at Exness that can help me see what news are happening when?
Yes. So on the Exness web terminal, you've got a calendar, for example, where if you toggle it on, it will give you the events that are coming and remind you today is CPI day.
Oh, okay.
Be careful. Today, Fed speaker, Fed official so-and-so is going to be speaking. So that really helps you with that, And again, it speaks to the wider picture. Right now, the trade is very much against the dollar. Why? Because of the rate cuts that I expected in 2024, right? And now that are looking more likely to be deeper and more and much faster than expected. Or they might be faster, but not necessarily deeper, but we are expecting cuts. So that's against the US dollar. So that's the trade for now. And that's now what you then use as a proxy to position for that election trade going forward. And Sihle, very good question. Like you said, it did really put me in the corner. And I hope it was very informative for our friends, our listeners and viewers. And I hope it's helped you unpack what is currently happening in the world of elections, what happens in the world of elections, together with other policies as well in terms of trading fundamentals, giving you an edge in your trading experience. And remember, please follow us on all our social medias, different pages, Instagram, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter. Please do like and subscribe. YouTube, of course. And from myself, Terence Hove, Senior Financial Market Strategist at Exness, and my colleague, Sihle Tuta, our Commercial Director for South Africa under the SSA division. We thank you very much and catch you next time.
Till next time. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.